The alien fleet floated in the endless black of space, broken and dying. Ships that once shined like silver stars were now scarred with burns and holes. Engines were silent, lights flickered weakly, and whole sections drifted without power. The fleet had traveled far, hoping to return home, but now they were trapped between systems, with no fuel and no allies. Inside the command ship, Captain Varrock stood at the cracked window, his dark eyes filled with fear. He watched as smaller ships of his people slowly lost their glow, one by one. Every hour another signal went quiet. Another ship went dark. Every death was like a blade in his chest, the crew whispered among themselves. They had sent hundreds of distress calls, desperate for help, but no one had answered. No empire, no council, no friend. It was as if the galaxy had chosen to leave them to die. Varrock knew why. His people's fleet had fought many wars. Their enemies hated them, and even their allies feared the cost of rescue. To many, saving them was a risk not worth taking. The silence in the command deck grew heavy. Even the hum of the failing systems sounded like a funeral song. Crew members avoided each other's eyes. No one wanted to speak the truth that the fleet was doomed. Dr. Rilsa moved through the medbay. She looked at rows of injured soldiers lying weakly in their beds. Oxygen levels were dropping, food was running out. She tried to give words of hope, but inside she knew the truth. There was no hope left. In another ship, children pressed their faces to dark windows. They asked their mothers, "When will help come?" The mothers could not answer. They only held their little ones tighter. The fleet's leaders gathered in a council chamber. Their faces were tired, their voices sharp with fear. "We cannot wait any longer," one commander said. "If no one comes, we must turn our ships toward the nearest planet, even if it means crashing. At least some may survive." Another slammed his hand on the table. "And if the planet has no air, no food, then we all die faster." The council shouted, argued, and fought. But the truth was clear. There were no good choices left. Despair was their only companion. Captain Varrock raised his hand, and silence fell. "We will hold," he said in a low voice. "If this is our end, then we face it with honor." No one spoke after that. The words felt like a death sentence. Time passed slowly. Every second felt like a drop of water falling into a dry well. The crew began writing final messages, some to family they would never see again, others to no one at all, just words to fill the silence out in the black. The fleet looked like a graveyard of stars, flickering lights, drifting hulls, and broken wings. The void swallowed their cries. It was the kind of silence that could crush the soul. Then, a sound broke through. It was faint, distant, but clear, enough to freeze every heart. A signal, a voice, something new cutting through the empty darkness. The crew leaned forward, eyes wide. "Is it raiders?" one asked, fear shaking their voice. "Another enemy come to finish us? Or, is it someone answering?" The signal grew louder, steady, and strong. The translation system struggled, but then the words appeared on the screen. "This is the Terran Expeditionary Vessel Sol's Promise. We have received your distress call. Stand by. We are coming to assist." For a moment, silence filled the command deck again. But this silence was different. It was heavy, not with despair, but with disbelief. "Humans?" Captain Varrock whispered. The word tasted strange. Humans were new to the stars, a young species often underestimated. They had no great empire, no massive council seat, and yet, they had answered. The crew exchanged looks, some filled with hope, others with suspicion. "Why would humans come here?" One officer asked. "What do they want from us? Are they fools, or are they setting a trap?" Varrock stared at the glowing signal on the screen. He remembered the stories, how humans were strange, reckless, and stubborn, but also how they were known to protect even those who were not their own. "Keep the channel open," Varrock said. His voice shook, but his eyes burned with something new. Not hope, not yet, but a spark, small and fragile. Outside, the fleet still drifted in silence, but now the silence was different. It carried a question that might change everything. Would humanity truly come to help? Or would they, like the rest of the galaxy, turn away at the last moment? The broken fleet waited, hearts beating, breaths shallow, eyes fixed on the dark horizon where a new light might soon appear. And then, the first human ship emerged from the void, its lights bright, its engines alive. A yellow glow painted the darkness, and for the first time in weeks, the alien fleet felt the weight of silence break, not the silence of death, but the silence before a new story begins. The human ship moved closer, cutting through the dark void like a blade of light. Its hull was not grand or polished like the alien vessels. Instead, it looked rugged, built for endurance rather than beauty. Every panel seemed functional, every weapon turret ready, and yet it carried an aura of strength. The aliens watched in silence as the human vessel positioned itself between the broken fleet and the emptiness. Its engines glowed bright, steady, and controlled. Unlike their own ships, which flickered like dying candles, on the command deck of Captain Varrock's flagship, the crew held their breath. "Open the channel," Varrock ordered. The screen lit up and the image of a human captain appeared. He wore a simple uniform, his eyes calm but sharp. "This is Captain Elias Rohn of the Soul's Promise," and the human said. "We received your call, and we are here to help." The words fell like thunder. Aliens who had prepared for death now stared in disbelief. Some whispered to each other, "Help? From humans? They must want something. They always do." Varrock's voice was steady, though his heart pounded. "You risk your ship, your crew, for us? Why?" Captain Elias did not look away. His tone was firm. "Because no fleet should be left to die in silence. Because we are human." The command deck went still. The aliens had expected conditions, threats, or hidden motives, but the human offered only words of solidarity. It was something the galaxy rarely gave. Still, suspicion clung like shadows. Commander Yelth, a veteran scarred by war, leaned forward. "What if they finish us instead? What if this is a trick?" Others nodded, fear twisting their thoughts, but Varrock studied the human's eyes on the screen. They did not hold mockery or deceit. They held resolve, and something even rarer, compassion. The humans acted quickly. Small craft launched from the Soul's Promise, flying toward the crippled alien ships. They carried repair drones, energy cells, food supplies, and medical packs. The humans worked like a tide, steady, organized, relentless. Dr. Rilsa, watching from the med bay, gasped when she saw human medics entering her ship. They carried new equipment, their voices calm, their movements careful. They treated alien wounds without hesitation. To her shock, they even gave away their own supplies. It was as if they believed the alien lives were equal to their own. In another ship, alien children saw the human drones delivering food. They watched the small machines place glowing packages into waiting hands. Their mothers opened them, and, for the first time in weeks, the children tasted warm bread. Tears filled their eyes. It was the taste of life. Yet not all were convinced. In the council chamber, arguments burned hotter than before. "They are fools," one commander spat. "Why waste their resources on us? No one does this without gain," another added. "Humans are dangerous. We should prepare defenses. If they betray us, we strike first." Varrock listened but said nothing. His eyes stayed on the reports coming in. Human drones repairing engines, human medics saving alien soldiers, human voices repeating the same words. "You are not alone." But then, just as fragile hope began to grow, an alarm screamed across the fleet. Red lights flashed and the void outside filled with movement. A new force had arrived. Dozens of dark raider ships dropped out of warp, their engines blazing. Predators. Drawn by weakness, they had waited for this moment. A fleet too broken to fight back, panic spread instantly. "The raiders, they will finish us. We have no weapons left. They will slaughter us all." The raiders wasted no time. They charged, their weapons firing streaks of fire through the black. Alien ships shook under the blasts, hull plates shattered, flames burst in the void. The fleet was too weak to defend itself, but before the aliens could break, the human ship moved. The Soul's Promise surged forward, weapons roaring. Its guns lit the darkness with streams of fire and plasma. Raider ships exploded one after another, torn apart by precision strikes. Inside the alien command ship, jaws fell open. The humans did not hesitate. They stood between the raiders and the broken fleet. Every shot fired, every move made, was to protect, not themselves but the aliens. Varrock gripped the console, his chest burned with something he had not felt in weeks. Hope. These humans, he whispered, they fight for us. The battle raged. The Soul's Promise danced with deadly grace. Its hull bore scars, its shields flared, but it never backed down. The aliens, powerless, could only watch as humanity fought for them, Doctor. Rilsa, staring at the screen in the medbay, covered her mouth with trembling hands. Children cried out, not in fear but in awe. Even the hardest commanders fell silent, for they saw what no empire, no council, no ally had ever shown. Sacrifice without demand, courage without reward. The raiders, bloodthirsty but unprepared for such resistance, began to falter. Their formation broke and they retreated into the void, leaving wreckage behind. Leaving silence once more. But this silence was different from before. It was not the silence of despair. It was the silence after a storm, when hearts beat fast and breath comes heavy. On the screen, Captain Elias appeared again, his uniform singed, his face streaked with sweat. "Your fleet is safe for now," he said, "but this is only the beginning." Varrock stared at the human, and for the first time, he bowed his head. "Why?" he asked, voice low and raw. "Why risk your lives? For ours," the human captain answered without hesitation. "Because no one deserves to die forgotten." The words cut deep. The crew felt them in their bones. For the first time they began to believe, but deep inside, a shadow lingered. If the raiders had found them so easily, what greater danger was still on its way? The broken alien fleet drifted in uneasy silence after the raiders fled, but the silence did not bring peace. It carried a new weight, a warning. If small raiders had found them, larger predators would not be far behind. Captain Varrock stood at the cracked window of his command ship. He watched the human vessel Soul's Promise move among his fleet. Repair drones swarmed. Human shuttles carried food and medicine. Every act of kindness was a shield against despair. And yet, Varrock's heart tightened. Hope was dangerous. It made the fall harder when it came. On the human ship, Captain Elias Rohn studied the readings. His crew worked tirelessly, their faces grim. They knew the raiders would not be the last. Scouts had already detected strange signals at the edge of the system. A larger fleet was gathering, and it was coming straight for them. In the alien council chamber, tempers rose again. "We cannot trust them," Commander Yelth growled. "They fight well, yes, but humans have their own motives. They will leave us when it suits them." Others disagreed. "They risked their lives already. No empire has done so much for us." The argument burned like fire, but no one could deny the truth. Without the humans, they would already be dead. "Doctor," Rilsa walked the medbay. She watched human medics kneel beside alien soldiers. She saw their hands stained with blood that was not their own. She saw them smile at children they did not know. Her heart shook with a realization. These humans were not saviors or conquerors. They were something else entirely. But the shadow came quickly. The alarms screamed once more. Red lights burned across every deck. Ships trembled under the echo of approaching engines. The void outside came alive with movement. Dozens of warships far larger than raiders tore into the system. Their hulls glowed with predator markings. They belonged to the Carrix Marauders, an infamous war clan that hunted stranded fleets like Carrion. Where raiders took scraps, the Carrix came for slaughter. Panic struck the alien fleet. Voices filled the comms. "They've found us. We cannot survive this. Even with the humans, it's impossible." Varrock's fists tightened. His fleet had no shields, no weapons, no strength left. They were prey waiting to be torn apart. On the Soul's Promise, Captain Elias's voice thundered through comms. "All ships, hold your positions. We will fight." The human vessel surged forward, standing alone against the wave of Carrix warships. Its engines roared, its weapons burned bright. The first Carrick ships fired volleys of plasma. The Soul's Promise twisted through the storm, shields flaring, guns spitting fire. Enemy hulls cracked, explosions flared. But the swarm was endless. Alien eyes watched in awe. One small human ship facing an entire war clan. Every maneuver precise, every strike deadly. But even the strongest could not hold forever. Varrock felt despair return. The humans were brave, but bravery alone could not break the storm. Already the Soul's Promise bore scars, its shields weakening. If it fell, the aliens would have nothing. Then a voice cut through the council chamber. A young officer cried out, "Let us fight with them." The chamber went still. "Are you mad?" Commander Yelth barked. "Our weapons are broken, our shields dead, we cannot fight." But the young officer slammed his hand on the table. "Then we fight with what we have. Drones, shuttles, even debris. We cannot leave the humans to die for us." The words spread like fire. Whispers turned to shouts. For the first time since their doom began, the aliens felt something stronger than fear, pride. Varrock rose, his voice thundered. "Prepare every ship. If we cannot fight with guns, we fight with courage." The alien fleet came alive. Ships powered what little engines they had. Repair crews turned cargo drones into makeshift weapons. Civilian vessels pushed forward, shielding human flanks with their broken hulls. The hopeless fleet began to move not as prey but as partners. The Carricks were caught by surprise. They expected weakness, surrender, easy kills. Instead, they faced a desperate alliance. The humans striking like fire, the aliens ramming, blocking, sacrificing. On the battlefield, chaos burned. One alien freighter slammed into a Carrick's raider, both ships exploding in a storm of light. Human torpedoes ripped through enemy lines. Alien drones swarmed, colliding with enemy shields. Together they created a wall. Together they refused to break. Inside the medbay, Dr. Rilsa held the hands of wounded soldiers. Through the screen she saw human and alien ships moving side by side. Tears filled her eyes. For the first time she whispered, "We are not alone." The Carricks, enraged, pushed harder. Their flagship loomed massive and terrible. Its cannons charged with fire strong enough to destroy 10 ships in one blow. Varrock's command ship shook as the energy beam locked onto them. He closed his eyes, waiting for the end. But then, the Soul's Promise surged between them. Its shields flared, its engines screamed. It took the blow meant for the aliens. The explosion shook the stars. The human vessel staggered, smoke and fire spilling from its hull. But it did not fall. It stood, scarred but alive. It shielded them. Still, Varrock's heart thundered. His people stared in silence. For in that moment they understood. The humans had chosen death before betrayal. They would not abandon them. The battle raged on, but the story had already changed. For now the galaxy would know. Humanity did not stand above others, they stood with them. And in the shadows of fire and wreckage, the alien fleet's destiny shifted. Not because of their own strength, but because humanity reached out a hand. In the void. The void burned with wreckage. Alien ships drifted like wounded animals. Human drones buzzed between them, and the Carrick's marauders regrouped in the distance. The battle had not ended. It had only paused. The silence carried tension, like the air before a storm breaks. Inside the alien command ship, Captain Varrock leaned on the table, his hands trembling. He had seen the human vessel Soul's Promise take the blast of the Carrick's flagship. It should have been destroyed, yet somehow it still held together, smoke and sparks trailing its hull. The humans had stood between death and his people. No empire had ever done that. Not once. The alien council gathered again, their faces pale, their voices shaking. "This cannot last," Commander Yelth growled. "The humans are reckless. They will die. And when they do, so will we." Another voice snapped back. "And what would you have them do? Leave us? Abandon us as the others did?" The chamber erupted in shouts, fear twisting into anger. Varrock slammed his fist down, the sound echoing like thunder. "Enough!" His eyes burned. "Look out the window. Look at their ship. Do you not see? They are bleeding for us." The chamber fell into silence. For the first time, the proud warriors of his people bowed their heads. Meanwhile, aboard the Soul's Promise, Captain Elias stood at the heart of his bridge. Smoke filled the air. Sparks rained from damaged panels, but his crew worked without hesitation. They patched systems, rerouted power, launched more drones. Every order Elias gave carried weight. Keep the shields steady, keep the medics moving, keep them alive. His first officer, a woman with sharp eyes, leaned close. "Captain, our reserves are almost gone. If another Carix wave hits, we cannot hold." Elias's jaw tightened. "Then we won't hold alone." He opened a channel to the alien fleet. His voice carried across their broken ships. "Your people can fight. Maybe not with weapons, but with will. Stand with us or we all fall." The message struck like lightning. Doctors, engineers, pilots, all listened. And slowly, something changed. Aliens who had been waiting for death now rushed to action. Medics began working side by side with human healers. Engineers fused human technology with alien power cores. Even civilians volunteered, flying drones into dangerous zones to protect both fleets. Dr. Rilsa felt the change most of all. She worked beside a human medic, their hands stained with the same blood, alien and human mixed. She looked into his eyes, and in that simple glance, she saw something stronger than politics. She saw trust. Children aboard the alien freighters no longer whispered in fear. They pressed their faces to the windows, watching humans and aliens move as one. One boy tugged his mother's sleeve and whispered, "Mother." The humans, they came for us. They stayed. And for the first time she smiled, but trust was not without cost. The Carix marauders stirred again, their warships aligning, their cannons glowing. They had seen enough to know this battle was no easy harvest. Now they came with fury. The flagship charged its weapons again, brighter, stronger, unstoppable. Varrock's command deck shook as the readings poured in. "We cannot withstand another strike," his officers cried. "It will destroy us all." Fear spread like fire through the fleet. Then a calm voice cut across every channel. It was Captain Elias. "We don't run. We don't bow. We fight together." The alien fleet stirred. This time, no one argued. This time, no one doubted. Even Commander Yelth clenched his fists and nodded. "We fight," he growled. The plan was madness, but it was all they had. Human engineers linked their systems to alien cores. Alien pilots used debris as shields. Human drones carried alien explosives into enemy lines. It was chaos, desperate and fragile, but it was unity. When the Carix flagship fired, it did not strike silence. It struck a wall of resistance. Human shields flared, alien hulls absorbed, drones sacrificed, the beam tore through, but it did not break them. Together, they endured. Varrock shouted across comms, "All ships, forward, push them, back." The alien fleet, once drifting like prey, surged with new life. Half-repaired engines roared, weapons flickered back online. They struck side by side with the humans. Every blast, every move, forged trust in fire. The Carix, enraged and stunned, faltered. They had expected weakness. Instead, they faced something stronger than weapons. They faced unity born in desperation. Dr. Rilsa whispered as she held the wounded. "They are not saviors. They are not conquerors. They are with us, truly with us." The battle raged. Ships burned, shields cracked, but no one broke. Alien and human voices roared together through comms, and the galaxy, if it had been watching, would have seen something it had never seen before. Enemies, strangers, outsiders. Now allies, bound not by treaties or oaths, but by choice, by fire. When the Carix retreated once more, leaving behind wreckage and silence, the fleets did not cheer. They did not weep. They simply breathed. Together, Captain Elias's voice carried through the comms again, calm and steady. "This is not the end. They will return, but we will be ready." Together, Captain Varrock lowered his head. Not in defeat, but in respect. "Together," he whispered. The silence that followed was not empty. It was the silence of trust. The silence after fire had forged something unbreakable. The battlefield lay in ruins. Broken hulls drifted like skeletons. Trails of fire stretched across the void, and silence returned once more. But it was not the silence of despair anymore. It was the silence before a choice. The alien fleet floated weak but alive. Engines hummed faintly, lights flickered back on, and wounded crews clung to life. Every ship bore scars, but every ship still breathed. And standing at their center was the human vessel Sol's Promise. Battered yet unyielding, Captain Varrock stood at his command window. His people had been saved by a species they barely knew, saved not by power, not by greed, but by something the galaxy had long forgotten: compassion. He remembered the council debates, the doubts, the suspicion. But now, as human drones repaired alien engines and human medics held alien hands, the truth was clear. The humans had already answered the question. They were not here to conquer, they were here to stand on the Sol's Promise. Captain Elias looked over his wounded crew. His ship had taken blows meant to kill. His people had bled for strangers. But none complained. None asked what reward would come. They knew why they had come, because humanity could not ignore a call for help. His first officer approached, her face pale with exhaustion. "Captain, the Carracks will return. Not today, not tomorrow, but they will come back with more." Elias nodded. "Then we prepare. Not alone." He opened a channel across the fleets. Every alien, every human, heard his voice. "You were left to die. The galaxy abandoned you. But we did not, and we will not." He paused, his voice steady. "We stood together once. If we stand together again, no one can break us." The words spread like fire. Across alien decks, crew members lifted their heads, children pressed close to screens, eyes wide with hope. Doctors wiped tears from tired faces, and Captain Varrock, once filled only with despair, clenched his fist. "Yes," he whispered. "Together." But the Carracks had not fled far. At the edge of the system, their war fleet gathered again, larger, stronger, enraged. Their flagship pulsed with power. They came not to raid, but to destroy utterly. The alarm screamed, sensors lit up with red. The final storm was here. Varrock's officers panicked. "We cannot face them again. Our weapons are still weak. We will be slaughtered." But this time, Varrock's voice cut through the fear like steel. "No, not alone." He turned to the screen where Elias's face appeared. "Humans, we are with you. We will not run." For the first time, the fleets moved as one. Alien ships, half broken but burning with will, aligned beside the Sol's Promise. Human drones filled the gaps. Alien fighters carried human tech. Two species, once strangers, now a single shield. The Carracks charged. Their weapons roared, beams of fire tearing through the void. But the united fleet surged forward. Every ship, every drone, every soldier fought not for empire, not for glory, but for each other. The clash was brutal. Alien hulls cracked, human shields flared, explosions tore through the black. But the line held. When one ship fell, two more filled the gap. When one shield broke, another rose. At the center, the Carrack's flagship loomed, its cannons charged with enough power to erase them all. It fired. A beam of fire stretched across the stars. But this time it did not strike weakness. It struck unity. The Sol's Promise and Varrock's command ship stood side by side. Their shields overlapped. Their weapons roared together. The beam tore through, but it did not destroy. Together they endured, and in that moment, the counterattack came. Human torpedoes streaked forward. Alien energy cannons blazed. The flagship shuddered under the combined strike. Its hull split, fire ripped across its spine, and then, with a thunder that shook the system, it exploded. The Carrack's warfleet, leaderless and broken, scattered into the void. Their prey had become hunters. Their victims had become warriors. Silence fell again. But this silence was different from all others. It was the silence of victory. On every deck, aliens and humans cheered. Voices that had once whispered in despair now roared in triumph. "Doctor, Rilsa wept openly, her hands clasped with a human medic's. Children laughed, mothers cried, commanders saluted. They had survived, because humanity had reached out a hand. On the alien command ship, Varrock spoke softly. Captain Elias, you have given us more than life. You have given us hope. Elias's voice, weary but steady, answered, not hope. A promise that no one will be left alone in the dark. The fleets drifted together, scarred but united, and across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. Whispers of the day humanity fought not for conquest, not for riches, but for strangers. Whispers of the day the doomed fleet was saved. The galaxy would not forget. The alien fleet would not forget. And humanity, once underestimated, now stood revealed. A hand across the stars, a hand that turned despair into fire, a hand that changed everything.